Hi, everybody. Shay Hata with the Buy Sell Love Chicago team. I am here with one of my favorite lenders today, Chad Lubin with the Lubin Group at Cross Country Mortgage. Chad, thank you so much for joining me today. I really appreciate it.
Oh, it's awesome to see you, Shay, and thanks for having me on.
Absolutely. So today I wanted to talk about sellers specifically. Obviously we just had an election. We know that Trump is going to be coming into power in January. How do you see that affecting interest rates and kind of the lending world in general?
If you follow the markets at all, you'll see that right as Trump was getting announced as the winner, the stock market rallied, the crypto market rallied. I want you to think about the markets as everything's competing with each other, right? So if you see the stock market run up and crypto run up, then that means something else is suffering, right? Because of that run up. So there was a move of money out of mortgage bonds and treasury bonds called a sell off, and that causes those yields to increase. So that's the first reason why interest rates have been increasing since the election. The second is the Fed has been cutting the prime rate. And it's a phenomenon over the last 40 years that's happened 15 out of the last 16 times. And what we saw was for about 2.5 weeks after the first Federal Reserve Board prime rate increase, mortgage rates got better, right? And then it only lasted about 2.5 weeks. So we locked in like 48 people from last year and got them a way better rate this year. So higher fives, lower sixes, right? Well, that all came to an end because if you think about it for yourself and you have money in a savings account, you know when the Fed's decreasing the prime rate that the interest you're making on your savings account is going to be reducing. So they're paying less on savings accounts now, right? And people are moving that money into 10-year treasuries, which is a government bond. So they're called yields go up, and mortgage bonds is what sets mortgage rates. So the mortgage bond yields have to compete with the treasury bond yields. So that's why those interest rates are going up right now, is because everybody's moving their money out of money market account savings, and some people that are planning or getting ready to retire, they're taking all their money and locking it in at like a 4.25, 4.5 on a treasury bond. And the mortgage bonds have to be higher than that. So that's why you're seeing interest rates in the high sixes, lower sevens. But 15 out of the last 16 times that that's happened and the Fed's cut rates, within 6 months, rates are 1% to 1.5% lower.
So is that your prediction then? Is that next year interest rates will come down?
Yeah, I've been saying for a long time, 5 by 25, right? And I said that a while ago at the beginning of 2025. I no longer think that's going to happen, but I do think by the summer we're going to see 5%. And truth be told, we saw higher 5% for about a 2 week period and begin end of September, beginning of October. I just think it will last longer after you see a few more Fed cuts.
Are you worried about if Trump enacts all of his tariffs that he wants to put into place, that that's going to cause inflation to increase and cause the feds to not decrease the interest rates, and that we'll see interest rates stay in the sixes and sevens longer?
I think that's possible temporary, right? I think that move is to force a little more buy of US and not have to import everything. But there's just going to be some goods that we are, and there's two school of thoughts on that. That it could cause some inflation and be an inflationary measure. If inflation starts popping back up, absolutely interest rates will follow it. I just think a lot of that's already been priced into the mortgage bond market right now. So I'm not expecting rates to go too much higher. They have been helped, unfortunately, with the Russia-Ukraine war. So this week, ever since that started to escalate, we are seeing rates coming back down.
Interesting. So for sellers, one of the things that we hear from our sellers a lot of times regarding interest rates is that they don't want to sell their house because they have an interest rate, like mine, it's a 2.35. And so they're like, well, why would I sell and go to an interest rate that's in the sixes or, high fives or sevens or whatever it is. So do you have any tactics or tips for them, trading, a lower interest rate for a higher interest rate? And is there any way to get that higher interest rate down? Or do you just recommend they buy at that higher interest interest rate and then wait for an opportunity to refinance in the future when it's in the fives?
I have a lot of people that are very surprised when we run rental numbers for them that they can keep that property and create cash flow for themselves and maybe put it on a 15 or 20-year loan before they get out of the property, or keep paying aggressively on their low interest rate on their 30-year. So I always encourage people, hey, at least look at keeping it as a rental property as an option. We can get you a line of credit. You can put that down on the new home. You already have a really low interest rate, or interest rates are lower on the 15-year, 20-year loans. And this could become an income producing property for you as well. Now, I know a lot of people's money are tied up in the equity of their home. So there's two ways to tap in that. The first I already mentioned is to get a line of credit before you start looking at a new home and use that to put down, or you can do what's called a bridge loan.
And can you talk to us about how bridge loans work and explain those to people?
Yeah, so we have two programs of bridge loans. We have one that is no interest rate. You're not being charged any interest. There are upfront fees. They're about 2 to 2.5% of the value of your home. You're charged a one-time fee. You can get all of the money out of the home, typically up to about 80 to 85% of your home's value, minus the loan that you already have on it. So take the value of your home, multiply it by 0.8, and then subtract out your current loan balance, and you'll get what you could get on a bridge loan. And then what you do is you take that money and you put it in on a new property, right? On that loan, Shay, we act as if their property right now doesn't exist from a debt to income ratio qualification. So think of it as, hey, that home doesn't even exist and I'm just buying the new home. That's how we treat it from an underwriting standpoint. So
And
that's
can
the first program.
And can you explain to people, when they do a bridge loan, then are they paying the full cost of the mortgage for two properties at the same time, until they sell their property that they're currently living in?
Great question. Yeah. And that was, I was hoping you'd ask that because that's the other program. The other program is that bridge loan. You do pay an interest on it. However, there's no payments due on it. So it's just whenever Shay goes and sells you that property, then the interest that accrued during the time that you were living in the new home, that just gets tacked on to the payoff. So it gets paid off when you sell the home. You can use that bridge loan to get out of your old mortgage. So it kind of consolidates the money you're using to buy the new property and your old mortgage. That consolidates it all into one loan. And then that way you don't have any payments due for up to 4 months, but we get extensions up to 6 months. So you could, just to drive the point home, go out, buy the new place, do a bridge loan on your old place, get that money off, pay off the mortgage so you don't have any payments due on the new place, start your payments on the new home, and then that gives Shay and her team time for 6 months to sell that home for you, and you don't have to come out of pocket with paying on the new home and paying on the old home.
That's great. That's perfect. And is that the same kind of 6-month timeline with the first bridge loan option, or is there a certain time frame in there in which you need to sell that house?
Yeah, it's a 6 month duration as well. 4 months with a 2 month extension.
And for sellers, typically what we do, if you want to do something like a bridge loan, or even if you don't want to do a bridge loan and you can get approved to buy a new house without selling your old house, what we typically do is we come in ahead of time and do all of your, go through what needs to be decluttered. We do all of your interior and exterior photos. And then that way, as soon as you go under contract on the new house and we're through inspection and we make sure that that inspection went well and that deal is solid, then we'll turn around the next day, put your house on the market to sell. Hopefully we'll have it under contract in, a week, 2 weeks, something like that. And we can try to line up those closings sometimes so you even close on the same day, and if not, maybe it's a couple days later or a month later, so you have time to slowly move. So you're not carrying those two properties for very long at the same time because we've done a lot of that work on the front end to get it ready so we can go right on the market as soon as you go under contract on the new house. And I think the nice thing with doing it that way is you don't feel pressure to
Right.
settle for a house you don't really like. This way you can take your time and find a house you love and not settle and then put your house on the market. So I love that bridge loan option. I know sometimes people ask me about, well, could they do a HELOC instead of a bridge loan? How do you feel about that instead?
Yeah, you can if you time it out long enough. Compliance says you're not supposed to call a property that you're leaving your primary home, and equity lines are always only for primary homes. Now, it doesn't get checked much, but there are audits that happen, and if it was found that you did a HELOC and you were out looking for other properties, that truly should be called an investment property, and you shouldn't be calling it your primary home because you knew and you had an application in a mortgage lender's system that you were out looking for a new home.
Got it.
So we always follow compliance and would never want to put our reputation, our license in jeopardy, and someone having to go through a fraud hearing or charges. So no, I do not recommend doing a HELOC that way. If you time it out longer and you think you might be doing this and it's 6 months before you apply for a pre-approval, I see nothing wrong with that.
Okay, so that's helpful to know. So if people are thinking about selling and they're trying to figure out how do I sell and buy at the same time, they've got some options. One, it sounds like they should come to you, figure out if it makes sense to keep that primary residence they're living in now as an investment property
Mhm.
and buy the new property, which is my jam. You're speaking my love language when you
Yeah.
say that because that's how I've bought a lot of my properties. I bought it, I lived in it for a couple of years. I held on to it as a rental. I bought my next property, and I think that's a great tool for building wealth. I think my clients always kind of chuckle when I say that because they're like, but you don't make any money if I do that. And I'm like, no, I don't.
Yeah.
But I think it's the right thing for
Yeah.
most people to do if they can afford to keep that as a rental property. And rental demand is so high right now that oftentimes you can make more money renting it out than your mortgage, and you can positively cash flow and use some of those extra funds to go towards your new mortgage. So, that's what I love right there. But if they can't do that or they don't want to be a landlord, then some options would be talking to you to see if they could qualify for a bridge loan where they could buy and sell simultaneously if they can't get approved to carry two mortgages
Yeah.
first. So that's super helpful.
Yeah,
Any
one
other?
thing I want to say real quick before
Yep.
you move on, because you made an awesome point and a great point. You said, hey, you don't want to sell your home and then be rushed to find a home that you don't want to be in. The other benefit of that bridge loan is, hey, you also don't want to put your home on the market and be forced into taking an offer that you don't want to. And the bridge loan gives you flexibility to have the time for Shay to find the right buyer for your place. And sometimes that's waiting for the spring market or waiting for interest rates to drop. It just gives you flexibility so you're not forced into a decision either way.
Yes, absolutely. Are there any other programs that you think sellers should know about right now?
Yeah, I certainly do. The three things going on in the industry right now is new construction inventory is increasing. The builders are starting to catch up. It's not true in every market. I'm starting to see it in the suburbs in Chicago. I work three main markets. I work Chicago, Charlotte, and Charleston. So I call them the three C's, right? And we're seeing in all three of those areas that I work, we're seeing new construction start to catch up with demand. So you're seeing a lot of builders, builder sentiments at its highest that it's been in 12 years. You're seeing permits at the second highest point that they've been across the country in 15 years. So you're just seeing a lot of new construction start to creep up, right? Well, the buyer pool has shrank because of interest rates. Less people qualify. This is I don't want to call it a fictitious number. It's got some thoughts behind it and some just verification on our end, but it seems like about 6.5% interest rates is the magic number. It's like when we run 6.5%, or lower rates for people. They're comfortable with the monthly payments. They qualify. When rates have gone above that, it just seems to be a huge psychological and qualifying barrier, right? So what the develop I'm telling my agent partners and clients that are selling the resales, hey, you have to think like a developer right now. So you have a used home that's going up against a new home, right? And if all things are equal, people are choosing that new home every single time. I love
Absolutely.
my
Then they don't have to worry about the appliances, the roof, the windows. They know everything's brand new. It's going to be in good shape for 20 years.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
it smells better. I love my car, but if you give me the 2025 version instead of the 2020, I'm taking the 2025 if the price is the same, right?
Yeah.
But here's what's happening on top of that, Shay, is the developers are they're doing what's called a forward commitment. So they're locking in the interest rate for the potential buyer. Okay. We can do that through our lock to list program that lets you as a seller lock in the interest rate for your buyer. So why would you do that? It's so you could advertise the rate. You can put on top of that a 3-2-1 or a 2-1 buy down, and then you can advertise an even lower rate. Now you can advertise and start being like the developers are. They're developing below market level interest rates,
Yeah.
and they're advertising that, right? And they're giving closing cost incentives on top of that.
Yeah.
So think as a resale, and when the buyer pool expands, when rates come up or come down, excuse me, then we probably won't have this phenomenon and problem. But right now, if you want to compete, you got to think about it like a car. If I can get a new car at a lower finance term with lower payments and it's brand new, the resale doesn't stand a chance, right? So
Yeah. I
that's
mean,
what we're just seeing happen right now in a lot of markets. How about you?
yeah, I know. I'm definitely seeing that. I have a couple of clients who are, looking for houses in the suburbs, and, builders are offering, incentive rates at or interest rates at 4.99, 5.5, and they've said to me, Shay, I only want to look at new construction because of the interest rate, whereas resales can't compete. So I think this is a great way for people who are going to sell their house where it's not new construction to potentially compete with those people. I think the other tip I would say for sellers right now is get your property on the market sooner rather than later, because in the past, our market typically started in, end of February or March. The last couple of years, we've seen buyers out much earlier looking for properties. We've seen them out, January 1st and 2nd is kind of when the spring market has started this year. And there's a lot less competition on the market at that point because so many sellers are waiting until February or March. We've even seen this year, we've seen a lot of buyers just after the election come out of the woodwork and say, hey, I want to start searching now. And there's so little inventory out there. So if you're thinking of selling, I would say, let's get you on the market now. We could do it as a pocket listing. So you're not accruing days on market, but you're available to buyers who might want to buy. And then we can always go into the public market, in February or March when the market really starts heating up. So yeah, I completely agree with you. Those low interest rates are really drawing the buyers in.
Yeah.
Can you talk to sellers, kind of last question, assumable mortgages? Because I get this question from sellers of, can they have the buyer take over their 2.35 interest rate to make their property look much more attractive to buyers? So, that's an assumable mortgage. Can you talk to people about how that works and how realistic that is?
You have VA loans allow that and FHA loans allow that. I've seen some portfolio loans or heard, I've never seen them. I should say I've heard rumors that some portfolio loans have that. I've been doing this 23 years and have done over 6,000 mortgages. Maybe it's happened. I've never heard of someone successfully assuming someone's loan, right?
Yeah.
Because if you think about it, let's say, it's been 3 years at least since interest rates were hyper low, right? If someone's trying to assume that mortgage, A, prices have gone way up, right? B, that owner of that property has paid their mortgage down, and then the client has to come in and qualify for that.
Right. Yeah.
I've
And I
never seen it happen ever.
Well, and I think what people don't realize, sellers don't realize about assumable mortgages is that, say your house is worth $600,000 and you have 200,000 of equity, your loan is only 400,000. In order for that buyer to assume that loan, that buyer has to pay you that equity, that $200,000 out of pocket. So it's like, even if the buyer can qualify to take over the mortgage for you, very few buyers are going to have enough money to pay you all of your equity out of pocket to be able to assume the loan. So, that's where we typically see those loans fall apart. So, I think a lot of sellers think, oh, I could offer a low interest rate by offering an assumable loan, and we can absolutely market it that way. But I think the reality is it most likely will not come together that way.
Yeah.
I would say the last kind of tip I have for sellers is I do have some concerns about Trump coming into office and pushing tariffs through that could, at least for the short term, cause construction material prices to increase. So if you're a seller and you're thinking about doing some renovations to your home to get it ready to go on the market, I would say do those now over the winter if you can, while construction material prices are still low. And typically those construction companies, those GCs, get really busy in the spring and the summer. They're usually not quite as busy in the winter. So I think right now you can get a better deal on the labor costs and right now the material costs, whereas those may go up in the spring. So that would be kind of my one tip for sellers right now. Anything else?
Yeah, I just want to give you your clients one special offer. Okay.
Yeah,
Because
great.
I know it's hard right now. And you guys, I mean, you and your team have just helped our team tremendously. We love all your clients. They're
Oh, thank
just
you.
educated, professional, polite to my team. And we always want to work with buy, sell, love clients. So what we have offered and worked out with Shay and her team is if you do a purchase with us, you can do what's called pain points to buy down your interest rate. Okay. And we have a lot of clients doing that. For any of your clients, I will carry that forward to the refinance. So they will get
Awesome.
the benefit of the points on this loan. And if my prediction's right, 5 by the summer of 2025, then when we refinance, that will also buy that rate down and you won't have to pay for it again. And we waive our lender costs on that refinance. So I know it's scary with these rates, and it makes it difficult, but that should ease some of that burden. And just know that while rates are higher, there's more negotiations going on with the seller typically, not always, but you're able to negotiate a little more. And if you're a move up buyer going into a bigger home, I think you're going to get a better deal now than you will once rates drop and that buyer pool has increased because there's more competition, as Shay said.
Absolutely. So no, that's a great offer. And I love that Chad will refinance you and waive, his, as many of his fees as he can if you refinance with him during that first year. Cause I feel like, that gives you some, not guarantee, but some comfort in knowing that if you do buy now and the interest rates are higher and, if he's correct and the interest rates go down to the fives by the summer or the fall of next year or something like that, that you can refinance and get that lower interest rate. So that's great. Chad, I appreciate you hopping on and chatting with me today. Thank you so much. I'm going to put Chad's contact information below. So please feel free to reach out to him if you have any questions for him whatsoever. Otherwise, you're also welcome to reach out to me. I'll put my contact information on here as well. So thank you so much, everybody, for stopping by. I hope you have a great day.
Happy holidays.